a northern neighbor friend or future state, Canada and the US. We share a border, we share a continent, we share a love for hockey even though Canadians are undeniably better at it. But could we share a country? It might sound like the plot of a very unrealistic movie, but the idea of the US annexing Canada has been floated around for centuries. Recently, this seemingly outlandish idea has been thrust back into the spotlight, thanks in no small part to the eyebrow-raising comments of a certain former reality TV star turned politician. Buckle up, folks, because we're diving headfirst into the wild world of US-Canada relations and exploring whether a merger is in the cards. Now, before you dismiss this as a completely ludicrous notion, let's take a trip down memory lane. The history between these two North American giants is more complicated than some might think. A history of close calls past annexation attempts. Remember the American Revolution? Of course you don't, you weren't born yet. Point is, it wasn't just about America breaking up with England. The newly formed US saw a chance to add Canada to its roster, extending a brotherly invitation to join the revolution. Canada, however, politely declined. Then there was the War of 1812, which again you probably slept through in history class. Let's just say it involved some attempted invasions and ultimately solved very little. Fast forward to the aftermath of the Civil War, and the idea of annexing Canada popped up again. This time, it was fueled by resentment over British support for the Confederacy. See a pattern here? The point is, the notion of annexing Canada has been tried on for size multiple times throughout history. And while it never quite fit, the idea has lingered in the background like that embarrassing family photo your parents refused to take down. Trump's take trade wars and Twitter threats. Enter Donald Trump, a man who never met a norm he didn't want to bulldoze over with a gold-plated metaphorical bulldozer. During his presidency, Trump didn't just throw shade at Canada, he launched a full-on trade war, slapping tariffs on Canadian goods like maple syrup and lumber. But it was his off-the-cuff remarks about wanting to buy Greenland, and his assertion that Canada wants to be the 51st state that really set tongues wagging. Now, whether these were serious propositions or just Trump being Trump is up for debate. But his words, amplified by the megaphone of social media, breathed new life into the annexation conversation, much to the chagrin of Canadians everywhere. Section 4. Intertwined economies. The maple syrup lifeline. Let's be real for a second. The US and Canada are joined at the hip economically. We're talking billions upon billions of dollars in trade flowing back and forth across the border every year. Canada sends the US oil, natural gas, lumber, and yes, even that delicious maple syrup. In return, the US provides manufactured goods, technology, and a whole lot of Netflix subscriptions. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, like when you let your friend borrow your Netflix password in exchange for them occasionally driving to Chipotle. The point is, disentangling these two economies would be about as easy as separating two porcupines who accidentally wandered into the same sleeping bag. It would be messy, painful, and nobody would come out looking good. Section 5. Annexation, a Canadian nightmare. So what do Canadians themselves think about this whole annexation business? Well, let's just say they're not exactly lining up to trade in their universal healthcare and love of poutine for the Star-Spangled Banner. Public opinion polls consistently show that the vast majority of Canadians have absolutely zero interest in becoming part of the United States. And who can blame them? They've got their own thing going on, and frankly, they seem to be doing just fine without us. On the political front, the idea of annexation is a non-starter. Canadian leaders, from Justin Trudeau on down, have made it abundantly clear that they have zero interest in merging with their southern neighbors. And let's be honest, the logistical and political hurdles of such a move would be higher than a moose on stilts. So, while the idea of the US annexing Canada might make for a good conversation starter at your next Zoom happy hour, it's about as likely to happen as a polar bear riding a unicorn through Times Square. The history, the economics, and the sheer lack of interest from both sides make it clear. Canada and the US are destined to remain neighbors, not roommates. Please like this video and subscribe for more content like this.